G'day fellas, and welcome to an Age of Empires 4 video where we're going to be talking about new civilizations. Now, before we get started, I just want to clear the air for you guys that have clicked on this video and thought there are new civs that are being added. Look, there probably will be, but they haven't been announced yet. I don't even know if they're in the works right now. I would assume that they are, but the purpose of this video is to talk about the potential new civilizations that are going to be on our radars and what you would want to see. So I would encourage you, even if you don't watch the video, leave a comment, let me know what civilizations you'd like to see, because we're going to be talking about it today, and we're going to be finding out what the community wants to see from the developers. So we're going to bring up our notepad, our classic notepad. We're going to talk about some of the options, but before we do that, I want to talk to you guys just about the way that the developers do things. As you guys know, at the moment, there are 8 civilizations in Age of Empires 4. If we take a look here, you can see each one of them is displayed here in the tech tree. Now, when it comes to the developers adding new civilizations, the way that they're probably going to be doing this is looking to add in 2 civs at a time. Why 2 civs at a time? Well, it just makes sense. Why does it make sense? Well, if you add one, you have to add a campaign for it. And if you're doing a campaign, that's a lot of work. So why not just add a second one and just not do a campaign? In fact, if we take a look at the campaign right now, you can see that there are indeed 4 campaigns and 8 civilizations. You've got the Normans, which focuses on the English, the Rise of Moscow, which focuses on the Rus. You've got the 100 Years' Wars, which focus on the French, and then the Mongol Empire, which focuses on the Mongols. So the question is, okay, so now that we know that they're going to be doing that, it's highly likely that they're going to be following that same formula. 2 civilizations, 1 campaign. It could be 3 civilizations, 1 campaign, or 3 civs and 2 campaigns. I'm not sure exactly what their budget is, but it's going to be something like that. So now we begin the discussion. What do you want to see? Now, typically, you're not going to be introducing civilizations that are crazy. Like, you're not going to introduce Australia and New Zealand. Okay, even though this seems like a really good combination because they're close to each other in the world, the reality is it just doesn't work in the game. Even though we see games like Civilization 6 introduce Australia, and I'd love to see it, I just don't think it's likely. So let's delete that. Let's start again. Starting off, I'm going to start off in Oceania, because I'm from Oceania. And I'm going to go with some civilization combos that I think could work well. I want to know what Twitch chat thinks, because they're here with me. You can see them down in the corner of your screen. But I also want to know what you think at home. So the obvious one is Japan. And you think about Japan, you're thinking samurai, you're thinking dojos, you're thinking all that good stuff. There's going to be a lot of fun with Japan. The next one, it's got to be Korea. And with Korea, you're thinking turtle ships, you're thinking tech. Like, that's a big thing. Whenever you play Koreans in a game, at least, I don't know, maybe this is the strategy games that I play, they always seem to be focused around technology and sort of being ahead of the game. Now, Koreans, I think they also did use quite effectively the Nest of Bees, but I suspect they're not going to give that unit over to the Koreans. So I'm assuming that they'll probably just give them turtle ships, which are a unit that's available in Age of Empires 2. The next one, coming from Asia, is going to be Khmer. Which are another civilization that is available as well in Age of Empires 2. And I guess another thing to note is that typically you would expect the developers to look to grab civilizations from Age of Empires 2 because they are relatively similar in the way that the games play out. So it just makes sense. If you can play the Khmer there, then it kind of makes sense that you could be able to fit them into Age of Empires 4 as well. So we'll have to see how it goes. But I see some great suggestions in chat, and we'll talk more about that sort of Middle Eastern region. As an example, I can see that the Persians have been suggested by Loso, but one of the things people don't actually realize is the Delhi are Persian, or at least they're Persian speaking. Every single time I'm playing the Delhi, I feel like I'm being spoken to because I can speak Farsi and understand it. And so whenever they're talking, I'm like, who's talking to me? What did you say? Come back here. But yeah, maybe another thing. So the way that the developers could look to do it is go, okay, we're going to add in, we're going to call it like, the Asian dynasties. That was what the Age of Empires 3.1 expansion was called. But they would then look to add in, 1 or 2 of these civilizations and then do a campaign as well. But that is an option. So we could do Khmer, which would probably have elephants in it. And then I guess for any other civs, I guess you could probably go like the Burmese as well, but I think this is a good start to go for Asia. Another big aspect for the developers, and so we're trying to predict the DLC civs here to an extent. Another aspect that the developers will be looking at is how many people are actually in that region that are going to be attracted to playing the game. Because right now, as an example, let's say if you add in a region that doesn't really play Age of Empires, or that your community's not really from, or that you aren't particularly interested in, like let's say we add Antarctica, then you're not going to be inspiring a whole bunch of people to want to pick up the game. But for the developers, remember, they at the end of the day, they want their player base to increase. They want box copies to be sold. They want people to be signing up to Xbox Games Pass. So they want to be adding civilizations where their player base is bigger. So to me, that would kind of point towards Japan. There is a pretty big... it's unlikely that you're going to see Taiwan added. I can say that much. But there is a pretty big Taiwanese community. I know Korean community, not that big. We've got Lee Nok. That's about it. So let's move on. Let's talk about things outside Asia. So my pick at the moment is probably Spain and Portugal. It's not my pick. So let's talk about Europe. It would be Spain plus Portugal. Now, these guys, obviously, on a map, you look at them, they're right next to each other. So it's very easy to talk about, these two civilizations together in tandem. You'd probably do, you could do a campaign for Portugal and their fleets, or you could do a campaign for Spain and something like that. But there's a lot of great options that you've got here. Other options that you would have for Europe include things like Celts plus Vikings. You could see something like the Poles. Oh, that's the Pokes. That's the Poles plus the Danes. And I feel like with this, you could probably even add in the Hungarians as well. And these are like some really good options that the developers are going to have. And remember, you're just going to be adding in, you would add in one campaign. But I feel like these are almost like good enough to put in two campaigns, like Celts and Vikings. Like that would be pretty good. And the thing is, like, we've already seen, aspects of these kind of civilizations here with regard to the Normans, uniting England, that sort of thing, against the Viking invasions, that sort of thing. So I think there's definitely precedent for a civilization like that to be added. But we've got some more suggestions coming through from the chat. So another one would be, this is a pretty important one, the Byzantines. Byzantines coming through. And if you were going to pair them up with somebody, you would probably look to pair them up with the Ottomans. I think that would be reasonable. So you would that's the Turks. And in Age of Empires 3, they're called the Ottomans. In Age of Empires 2, they're called the Turks. So I guess you could go either way on that one. But then, that's just Europe. And we've talked about a lot of civs in Europe. And these are just like civilization pairings in Europe. So where else could we go on the world? Now, if we look at Age of Empires 2 as our example, we might make this a little bit smaller just so that we can actually fit it on the screen. If we look at Age of Empires 2, you start thinking, okay, what about like Mesoamerican civilizations? Well, we could add in the Aztecs. We could add in the Inca. There are some really cool civilizations that we could add in here. So that's always going to be an option as well. But I think that's probably going to be a little bit further down. I don't think they're going to be looking to add in Meso-civs immediately. I would pick this as like your 2024 civilizations. Like this will be December 2024. This will be when these civilizations come out. But we'll take a look at what chat is saying, get a bit of an idea. We could also get like Venice or something. Yeah, Venice, a very famous city-state. Meso-civs are also hard to balance because no cavalry, Aussie Drongo. That is a good point. I mean, you can always have like pseudo-cavalry, can't you? But then you get eagle runners. And I remember watching Age of Empires 2. I think it was Red Bull Wallalol 4, which was the one that Doubt won, if I remember correctly. And Meso-civs dominated the meta so much, and it was just eagles everywhere. Eagles, non-stop. Eagles everywhere. But I might be going crazy. Maybe. I might be going crazy. But anyway, I guess another region where they could look to go is Africa. And with Africa, there's a number of different options that you can have. You could look to go to Mali. You could have Zulu. You could have Ethiopia. And each one of these civilizations is sort of famous for a specific thing, like Ethiopia, the archers. Zulu, I guess it would be the men-at-arms. They would have a unique men-at-arms. And Mali. I mean, what are Mali famous for? I know them from Civ, and they are just a pillaging Civ. They just pillage everything. So maybe they could be a little bit like the Mongols. But I guess like from here, I think this is a really good start to where the developers would look to go. And from here, the Zulu Empire is younger than the United States of America. Is it really? That's interesting. That's interesting to hear that the Zulu are younger. But I'm curious, what kind of bonuses would you expect civilizations to have through here? Like if we were going to divide it up, because like I think if we're talking about a new civilization, Now, Age of Empires 4 has got a number of different options the way that it goes. It could go the standard route, which is just like DLC, where there's no such thing as expansions anymore. Like, you remember the days where you'd line up outside for us, we had Electronic Boutique in Australia. That was where we'd buy it, but like Kmart or wherever it is you go, and you get your expansion, and oh, it's the expansion for this game. Oh, wow, it's so cool. And I know we still see MMOs doing expansions because that's kind of what they do, but that's almost even seasonal. We know that with World of Warcraft, that there's going to be an expansion coming every 2 years. It's clockwork. It's fact. People just know to expect it. October, November, you can black out your calendar. That's when the expansion is going to hit for WoW. So get ready to raid, that sort of thing. So do we see that approach where they look to do expansions for Age of Empires 4? Potentially. That could be a great way to get people back in. And by the same token, an expansion actually makes people think, well, hold on a minute, this is an expansion. This isn't a DLC. What are they changing? What are they adding? What are they bringing to the table with this? So who knows? Maybe they look to go an expansion, but I would expect that they would go for DLC. I think DLC works very well. And I think they're kind of like almost interchangeable terms at this point in time. Like, we take a look at the brand new Age of Empires 2 DLC that's come out, which is going to be covering the region of India, or what is now known as modern day India. And I think that includes civs like the Bengalis, which is really, really cool to see. And that is an expansion, but at the same time, it's DLC. And so then from there, I guess the question is, what would you expect civilizations like this to see? What would you want to see out of them? Because Age of Empires 4, it is a very, very, the way that the game exists, civilizations are vastly different from each other. It is, there is a lot of asymmetry in Age of Empires 4. You have the Mongols that literally pick up their buildings and move them. They are nomadic, a civilization. So really everything is on the table. What is it that's different? Like, I think about Korea, and you know what I think? If I was making Korea, I would give them a unique university that gives access to Age 4 techs in Age 3. Okay? Like, that is what I would do. Like, it kind of, how the French can build unique technologies or research unique technologies with their landmark, the Royal Institute. You can see here. So these are Age 4 technologies that get brought down into Age 3 with, royal bloodlines. It's an Age 4 tech. Crossbow stirrups, an Age 4 tech, comes down into Age 3. What if they had a unique university that was available in Age 3, and it gave you access to chemistry, it gave you access to siege works, incendiary arrows, core architects, elite army tactics. Imagine if you could get all of those technologies early, because that's the that's the way that Korea is, right? They're focused on their technology, about their education. So that could be a direction that they look to go with that. I would be supporting that. I think that's a great idea. But Blackwind's coming in and saying, Mali is famous for its cav and gold gathering, Aussie Drungo. You're confusing the raiding stuff with Songhai. Remember, allying Songhai as the Hausa in AoE 3 gives a raider cav. All right, it might be Songhai that I am forgetting. So Mali famous for their cavalry. There you go. Middle Eastern nations, Israel, Egypt. Now, Red, I would agree with you, but I would also say this. Coming in from the developer's perspective, the number one thing that they want to do is avoid pissing people off. And the number one way that you piss people off is you add in a civilization that might offend somebody. And don't get me wrong. I'm all about, like, we're all good. I've got very good friends from that region of the world. Okay? But unfortunately, it means that you're going to have to avoid adding things like Taiwan, probably going to have to avoid adding things like Israel or Palestine, any sort of thing like that. Like, you realistically, like, even now with the recent war that's broken out, we've actually seen tournaments banning the Rus as a civilization, just quite literally not using it at all, almost like forgetting that it's there. So had this war happened before Age of Empires 4 was released, maybe we wouldn't even have the Rus right now. So it is something that the developers are thinking about. Okay, so and you need to be aware of that. So even though, yeah, it would be cool to add them, it would be cool to have that, but at the same time, then why is China already in Kappa? I know you're capping, but at the same time, like, the Chinese user base is so big, you can't ignore it. Sorry, man, we need China. We need China. The Chinese user base is too big. Oh, dude, that's where capitalism comes in. That's where it's like the money overrules it anyway. Like, here's my line at ethics, and here's my line for money, and they are not definitely Taiwan, Chile. We're not going to get into it. We're not going to get into it. But yes, yeah. But anyway, like I think that's a pretty good start for where these civilizations should go. But I guess the question is, like, in Age of Empires 3, we've got a whole bunch of civilizations that get a little bit wild. Like, we have the United States of America in Age of Empires 3. And the design behind America in Age of Empires 3 is probably the best designed civilization I have ever seen. I love the way, the concept that it works. And I'd love to see something similar in Age of Empires 4, but I just don't know whether it's going to be possible, because another big aspect of Age of Empires 4 is they're going to be keeping a theme. It's really important that they have everything that is historically accurate. And they're not going to be wanting to add in, you know, the Aztec and the Inca unless they're able to actually back it up. Because keep in mind, it's a big, it is a huge event making a campaign for these civilizations. If I guarantee you, I haven't clicked start mission, but I guarantee you if I click this, I'm going to be going into a cutscene that is not like a graphical cutscene. It's going to be like a fucking real life. Like, there's going to be dude walking along Kalka River, and he's like, this is the homeland of the Mongols. And like, he will be there in person, and there will be, you know, let's actually do it. The Mongol horde. All right. I don't think we actually get that video, do we? No, we get the video. Yep, here you go. As I said, okay. Welcome to Mongolia, home of the... Look at this. Dude, I told you.
An army of over 100,000 men swept aside all resistance.
There you go. I mean, we're not going to watch it. You guys have probably played through the campaign a couple times. Kalka River. It's a scary place to be. The Battle of Kalka River. I'm hoping that I can quit out of this now, but there you guys go. Like, there's a lot of effort that is going into campaigns to do them. So they're going to make sure that when they do it right. They do it properly. And it's going to be a lot of resources. That's CGI, not a real dude. Oh, God. Oh, the game just crashed. All right. Well, I guess we're just taking it. We're just going into full screen on the notepad then. But I guess we'll leave the video here, because when it comes to ideas for civilizations, realistically, the ideas are endless. Undoubtedly, there are posts on Reddit, there are posts on the official forums, there are posts on AoE Zone. Just kidding, AoE Zone. The only thing that's on AoE Zone is bickering, fighting, bitching, and moaning. That is on that is AoE Zone, at least with regard to Age of Empires 4. I'll provide that caveat. But yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of ideas out there, so I'm curious to hear what your ideas are. Where do you think the devs are going to go? What is the next DLC? What is the next civilization that is going to be added? Where are they going to be from? Let me know in the comments. Twitch chat, thanks for joining us. Always great to have you guys around here, even if you are a little bit rowdy. But we'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching.